You're now watching a clip from the Inspired by show. You can watch the full episode on our YouTube channel or listen on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. So make sure to head over there, leave us a 5-star rating if you enjoyed it, and follow the show. Mentioned, there's some parts of us that we either haven't had in our lives before, like you mentioned, talking about masculine energy or, dad figures. And I often find as humans, we're kind of like trying to work out the difference of, do I need to be masculine in this space? Do I need to be feminine in this space? Yeah. Being both female personal brands, we both built businesses.
Yes.
And I often find myself, people say to me, do you not feel like you're too much in your masculine when you do things like that? And can't you be a bit more feminine when you do things like that?
Yeah.
And it's interesting you touched on there where when we are affirming, it's through our masculine.
Yeah.
What's your view about this whole females being masculine, or should we remain feminine? What's your thoughts?
Well, I don't know how you can have one without the other, because if we've, had two parents who had two different roles, and sometimes the roles can be mixed over, right? It could be that, a mother's role energetically is to inspire a child to know self, and a father's role energetically is to acknowledge a child through their journey. So for me, that's like energetically, but those roles could be reversed, where the father could have been more sensitive and listening, nurturing ear, and the mother could have been more the provider and protector. So to me, it's not about gender, but we need both masculine and feminine energy. We need a balance of it. And masculine energy for me is action taking, is, productivity, is, doing. And feminine energy is compassionate energy, is receiving, is being, is intuition, is softness, tenderness. So for me, we need both, right? We need both those traits. And I'm seeing men that lack in, nowadays I'm seeing men that are lacking in their masculine energy, and I'm seeing men lacking in their feminine energy, and same with females too. And for me, I was very masculine, but inside I wasn't. I was a little girl that just wanted to be noticed, wanted to be heard, wanted to be loved, and wanted to be cuddled. But then I was like, no, don't cuddle me. No wonder I was good at boxing. I was a boxing instructor for years. I can still box
if you need to.
Yeah, my husband's 6'3", 6'4", and even now sometimes I'm like, come on, and like really, he can knock me out with his little finger, but there's still that part of me who's like, no, I'm going to protect myself, right?
Yeah.
But now there's that other part of me that says, hey, Spencer, I'm scared. Part of me is scared right now, and I can be feminine about that. That makes sense.
Yeah, it definitely does. And I think it's nice to know that we can have both parts.
Yes.
We haven't got to be one. I remember when I first became a female speaker and I was being trained to speak on stages, and people were saying to me, you need to stand like this because you can't, that otherwise the way you're standing, I used to stand with my legs crossed.
Yes.
And I was always told, you can't stand like
the
that.
Dominant stance.
Yeah, I must have exactly. And I remember thinking, this feels so alien. Now I've learned it so much, anywhere else doesn't. It feels weird. But I think so many times we're trained to like knock certain parts out of us. That's our default.
Yeah.
And you talked about it there where, you've now learned about, what a mother's energy is and a father's energy is. And I think sometimes we can learn these new behaviors, but we still can't forget our upbringing or, we're surrounded by this. How did you find it going then back into your, let's go being a mother first rather than your own family, knowing all this? How did you then go on to be a parent? Because I can imagine in my head, I'd probably overthink everything. I'd be like, am I going to do that? Oh no, I'll damage my child if I do that. What if I do this?
Yeah.
How do you navigate that?
Well, I remember my daughter, she was, 6 or 7 at the time. And I'd gone from doing a lot of, energy work around food. And, she'd come home and before we'd have our dinner, I'd put my hand over the carrots to feel the energy of the carrots. And she'd be like, Mum, what are you doing? And she was like, oh, yeah, carrots, have feelings, because she was 6 and stuff. So I'd always bring this stuff back to her, right? And then when I got more into coaching and I learned about coaching and learned about the roles of a parent, I remember sitting there going, oh, my God, I have messed up my daughter. Like, I've really screwed her over. That in itself was me yet again back in masculine energy, beating myself up and not being compassionate to actually, what if, Eileen, you've done the best that you've done with what you knew at the time as a mother? So I kind of had the two voices that still pop up from time to time. And then I started to share some of this stuff with her and talk to her in a more compassionate way. And I remember one day she came home with her report card, at school, or, the brown envelope with, the parents' evening results in. And she used to give it to me, and she used to put it on the stairs, and she used to go, Mom, there's my report. And I used to go, and I used to say, before I learnt this stuff, oh, what am I going to read now? Chana, why can't you just be quiet? Which is what teachers used to say to me, right? And I'm saying it to her, why can't you just be quiet at school? Why can't you just go? I remember saying to her once, why can't you just do the schoolwork in the, in the classroom and play in the playground? I mean, how telling is that? How demoralizing was that? But I didn't know any better. I was coming from a place of care because I wanted her to do well, right? But once I learnt this, this one day she left it on the stairs, and I said, oh, I says, T, I'm not going to read it. She went, what? I went, no, it's yours. I'd love you to tell me about it. And she said, what are you on about? I said, well, they're writing about you. What if you read it to me? And what if you let me know if you agree or disagree with the teacher? And we had such a magical, phenomenal moment. And she read it out. She went, like maths teacher went, I agree with what that teacher says. I personally don't like that teacher, Mom, so I don't listen to a thing that they say. But another teacher, she said, I actually disagree with that, what they're saying. So I was helping her to kind of parent herself rather than me tell her she was good 1 minute and bad the next minute. And I think that's what we can do with children as they get older. When children are little, we have to parent them. But when they get to be a teenager, how can we teach them to parent themselves? And what I did there was, no, Tiana, from now on, how can you approve of yourself? And how can you inspire yourself? And I'm going to be here to direct and support.